Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Morris, Mayor of the City of Clovis, and we are holding a press conference this afternoon in order to update the public about the efforts of the city leaders over the past weeks. We also would like to review with you the governor's Phase 1 plan, which begins this Saturday, May 16th, and discuss those impacts. I have with me in the room today, at safe distances, I have the city manager, Mr. Howalt. I also have Police Chief Doug Ford, Fire Chief Mike Nolan, and our Emergency Management Director, Dan Heerding. We are practicing social distancing, and we are adhering to the restrictions on gatherings. So unfortunately, the public could not be in the room with us today, but the public is invited to participate, and we would like to hear your questions and have the opportunity to answer them. You'll need to get those questions to us by calling 575-763-9200. If you call those questions in, they will be put before us, and we will make every effort to answer every question that you have. I wanted to begin by saying that, like I've said before in previous updates, that the last 8 or so weeks have been a very difficult and trying time for all of us in the city of Clovis. And we've all struggled to manage, and none have had it harder than our business community. So my heart goes out to our business owners. And over the last 8 weeks, I've maintained that COVID-19 is a very serious issue, a very serious virus, and it needs to be handled as such. But I've felt that the restrictions placed on our community by the health order were unfair in many ways and far-reaching, in particular for a community like ours where we have not seen outbreak. I think that a more balanced approach in combating the virus would have been appropriate. As I came into office first part of April, and realizing that I had no power with which to make adjustments to that order or changes to that order, I began to ask the question, what can I do? And what can we do as leaders? And so I just wanted to share with you a quick rundown of the things that we have done, that I've done and that your city commission have done, the efforts that we've made to help in this difficult time. Back on the 10th of April, on Good Friday, I sent a letter to the governor, and again, the 10th of April, we were already feeling, the business community was already feeling the pain of the restrictions, and I communicated that to the governor in the letter that I sent on Good Friday. The following week, the city commission met, and we had a regular city commission meeting on the 16th of April. That evening, we heard public comment from business owners who expressed the struggles that they were facing, having their doors closed in order to comply with the orders. And the commission and I had a lot of discussion about that, and we discussed sending a second letter, and we also entertained the idea of doing a resolution. And our thought was to ask for a modification in the health order to allow for our city to begin to safely reopen, and for that to be across our city, and we would see restrictions similar to what essential business was operating under applied all the way across our city. That next morning, on 17th of April, we did in fact send a letter that asked for that modification that was signed by all of the commissioners. On Saturday the 18th, I began communication directly with the governor's staff. I was able to talk to the governor's chief of staff on the phone, and that began the communication that I've had directly with the governor's office. On the 21st of April, the commission met in a special meeting, and we passed a resolution asking for the safe reopening of the city of Clovis at 20% occupancies and other restrictions in place, such as strict distancing. As we went on, I continued the multiple communications that I was able to do with state legislators, mayors around the Southeast, and the co-chair of the Recovery Council, which the governor appointed that same week. And my request to all of them was, how is it that we could get a regional approach? How is it that we could do that? And I visited with other mayors, I visited, like I said, with state legislators, and I made that request of the co-chairman of the Recovery Council, which was going to be advising the governor. On April 26th, I received a phone call and was appointed to the governor's mayor's council, along with 15 other mayors from around the state. And we began meeting right away, and we've met at minimum twice weekly since. And in that space and in those meetings, I have advocated for a regional approach to safely reopening Clovis and this part of our state, the east side of the state for that matter. And the case that I've made as I've advocated for that is that due to our relatively low number of positives with COVID-19 and my belief that Clovis business owners and Clovis citizens would practice safe protocols and look out for one another and keep each other safe. Most recently, I did some research on hospital capacity, and I asked the governor to begin to look at West Texas hospital capacity and factor that into the hospital capacity in eastern New Mexico. I've made those points and others, but in each meeting, I have advocated for a safe reopening of our city, oftentimes feeling like that was falling on deaf ears. I've fought there, and I will continue to fight, and I feel like being a part of that council has been the right thing to do. And I would like to believe that my being there and being the voice for our community has had an effect and moved the needle some. That said, I have not been able to get the regional approach, and yesterday the governor announced the phase 1 of her reopen plan, and it's not everything that I wished it would be. I thought that our part of the state could be looked at differently, and I told the governor that myself. I said that to her, that I would have liked to have seen this happen weeks ago, and I'm grieved that some businesses were left behind and delayed until June 1st, in particular dine-in restaurants. I feel like that could happen safely in our community. And I expressed to the governor that generally I would like to see her reopen plan include an acknowledgement of individual responsibility and trust in New Mexicans. I am going to continue working for you there on the Mayor's Council, and I'm also going to continue direct communication with the governor's office. And I'm going to keep that cordial and professional, but I'm going to be persistent and continue to advocate for an early reopening of our city. That said, we are where we are, and the governor announced phase 1 of her plan yesterday, and that goes into effect on May 16th. So again, we wanted to hold this press conference today to update you and to talk about that plan and what changes for us and for our community on May 16th. So we're going to look at some of the slides from the governor's press release and discuss briefly some of the impacts for our community. So if we could have that slide, please. We will skip to the slide that that says the stay-at-home order remains in effect. It's imperative that you continue to stay home, especially if you're sick or vulnerable. That I agree with, and I would like to echo. If you don't feel that it's safe to get out and around, please don't. Even though we are going to see our businesses opened up at limited capacities. So let's look at the second slide where we get to what is some good news in this, and that is all retailers beginning Saturday are going to be able to operate at 25% of fire code capacity. And they must practice COVID-safe practices. And those COVID-safe practices have been shared with our Chamber of Commerce and disseminated into the business community. Those COVID-safe practices for employers as well as for retailers are something that we at the city can share with you as well. Interestingly, and important to point out, I think, is that the large retailers, which have been deemed essential and allowed to operate this entire time, there's no change to what they're doing. They need to continue operating at 20% of their occupancy. And then there's some information there about counties, which doesn't apply to us. Again, we're just going to, these slides are going to be available to you. They're available on the Department of Health website and also readily available on the web as part of the governor's press release yesterday, but we're just going to highlight some of them. Moving on, if we look at the non-essential businesses such as offices and the like, they are also allowed to open beginning on Saturday the 16th, and they'll operate at 25% of their pre-crisis staffing levels. And employers should continue to use work from home and telework whenever possible. Houses of worship are able to operate at 10% occupancy, and that's good news. Initially, you look at that 10% and I ask why 10% if we're allowing business to be at 25%. However, as I've spoken with pastors and churches, due to the size of some of the buildings and their occupancy or their occupancy space, 10% is actually going to be a good number. The pastors and churches I've spoken with are really happy to be able to have 10% occupancy beginning this weekend, and the governor has said that she sees that being moved up June 1. So we have the exclusions here, and that is dine-in restaurants, indoor malls, salons, and gyms. So, for example, at our mall here in Clovis, the stores that have an exterior entrance and exit are going to be able to open up at 25% capacity, just as other retailers are. However, the common areas in the mall are going to be closed. So let's look. We get some loosening on modified, limited, and summer youth programs will be permissible with restrictions. And again, we see that COVID safe practices are being required of all employers, and that occupancy limits are being metered, and we want all of that in place. So again, these slides are going to be available, and if I've skimmed over them too quickly, they are available, and also we are available to answer questions about how they may pertain to your particular situation. Let's get to the slide that says Part 2 of Phase 1. So when we talk about early June, obviously we all hope that that's June 1st, and we see that there are some other businesses that are expected to open up then, including salons, barbers, gyms, indoor malls, dine-in restaurants. I asked the governor if she really felt like that she was going to be able to give us that on June 1st, and she said yes, that she really feels like it. So we're going to keep advocating for dine-in restaurants June 1st. There will be limited occupancy with that. And then we see potential expansions for occupancy limits on houses of worship and hotels and motels. And we're reminded on this slide that the state is continuing to monitor this gating criteria, which has been trending positively, and we hope that it continues to, so that we can continue opening up our state. And then let's look at the slide, and I wanted to transition to talk about masks. Everyone is talking about masks, and I would like to address that. We are being asked by the governor of our state to wear masks when out in public, and I just want to say that I identify with many of you who maybe take issue with that. I don't enjoy being told that I need to wear a mask any more than anyone else does. I even have some questions about some of the same questions that you probably do about their effectiveness. However, as I've looked into it, I I believe that there's only upside and not enough downside. And again, our state is asking us to do it. And I want to be a good citizen, and I'm asking you all to be good citizens. And I really think that what prevents me from wanting to put a mask on to walk around in public, and if you're being honest, most of you are probably like me, it's selfishness and pride. I have a pride issue and don't want to put that mask on, and I'm just being very transparent with you right now. But the Bible calls me to do nothing from selfishness and instead be humble and regard others as more important than myself. And it's in that spirit of humility and thinking of others as more important than myself that I have decided that I am going to wear a mask when out in public. I can do that. I can do that because, to be honest, I would do anything for Clovis. I would do anything to see the city of Clovis get to open up and get our economy going and get our businesses going again. So I can certainly follow a simple order and wear a mask. And it's in that spirit of humility, and it's because I would do anything with you that you're going to see me in a mask if you see me out in public. And I'm asking, and I'm not telling you, but I'm asking you to consider doing the same. And I would appreciate that very much. At this point in our press conference and presentation, I would like to yield and call on our city manager, Mr. Howalt, to talk to us about updates that you may have, Mr. Howalt, on the city, and talk about impacts of the phase 1 of the reopen plan. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the City of Clovis employees. Throughout this pandemic and this crisis, they have been asked to continue to work. They have been asked to continue to work, continue to meet the essential needs of our citizens. And this has come amongst ever-changing policies, ever-changing guidelines. They have adapted. They have done whatever I have asked of them to do and to keep not only themselves safe, but also to keep our citizens safe. And they have done it with an openness and a willingness that is admirable. So like I said, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank them first for what they've done, and as well as to thank our citizens for bearing with us as we've had to make some transitions, as we have had to change the way that we do operations. And hopefully soon, with these phased openings, we'll get back to doing some things that we're used to doing on a normal basis. And so with that being said, the changes that the City of Clovis is seeing coming, which actually for us will be effective May the 18th, simply when we open business back up on Monday. Of course, there's general guidelines that all of our departments will be following, from cleaning protocols that require for COVID-safe practices, cleaning hard and frequently touched surfaces on a routine basis. Of course, maintaining the social distancing protocols that have been put into place, as well as the mayor just mentioned, wearing face masks. All City of Clovis employees will be wearing face masks when they are in the public, when they are in common areas, whether they're inside or outside. And so doing this business, if they are in their office spaces or closed into their spaces, they will not be required to wear masks at that time. But like I said, when they're out and about and in the common areas, I have asked them to all wear face masks. So those are just some of the general guidances that will be going across all of our various departments. Out at the airport, our airport has been open and will continue to be open. Of course, once again, following those COVID-safe practices. Denver Air took over our transportation services out there, our flight services out there, effective May the 1st. And so as travel starts to open back up, I encourage all of our citizens to utilize Denver Air and take advantage of our local airport that we here have available to us. City Hall. The lobby of City Hall, we will be opening back up to the public finance, administration, emergency management, human resources will all still be closed to the public. If you do need to meet with one of those departments, we will be available by appointment. But once again, the lobby of City Hall will be open if you need to drop off payments. However, we still do encourage our citizens to take advantage of our online services or the drop box that's available to them to put their payments into. That way they're limiting their exposure to others, as well as limiting the exposure of our employees as well. So like I said, the lobby of City Hall will be open during normal business hours. Building safety. Once again, this is a department that has a lot of interaction with the public. However, we have made accommodations, and so while the lobby will open up again following COVID-safe practices, we still encourage our citizens to utilize our online portals, our online forms. That way we're not having to put each other at risk and in jeopardy when it comes to conducting business with our building safety department. Our CATS operations, our public transportation, the lobby once again will reopen. However, our ridership will still remain limited on the number of passengers that are allowed on the buses. I once again encourage all citizens that need to schedule a ride, go once again to our www.cityofclovis.org to the CATS department. You can schedule a ride through EcoLane, and once again, that allows you an online opportunity to continue to conduct business with the city of Clovis. Our fire department, all of our stations except for Station 1 will be closed to family visitations. Obviously, we're not going to be conducting any tours at this point in our fire department. Station 1 will also be closed. However, that is where all of our building operations are out of, and so if you have any building issues that you need to visit with our fire department, it is open, but once again, I encourage you to reach out them via email or via telephone. Our library. Our library is going to open to the public. We have put practices and guidelines in place. We were asking that the public enter the library through the west door, which is the Main Street door, and then they will exit the library out the south door, which is the 7th Street door. We're asking that the patrons only spend about 30 minutes in our library, come in, find the book or resource that you need, check it out, and then please go on about your business. You will have access to some of the computer stations. We are limiting the time in which the computers will be available. We've also reduced the number of computers that will be available. So once again, for your safety, please make sure you're adhering to all COVID-safe practices, maintaining those social distancing. We have signage in place. We have markings in place. And so please make sure you're adhering to those. And once again, I know our library staff is looking forward to once again being able to see our patrons and communicate with them. But we want to make sure that we are doing that in a safe practice. Our parks department, of course, our parks have been open this entire time. We do encourage, once again, everybody maintaining those social distancing, those mass gatherings in our parks. But please get out there, utilize them. We have wonderful walking trails. Get out there, get some exercise in for your own mental health. Make sure that you're out there and staying in good physical condition. Our main complex, the lobby, will be open. But once again, ask yourself before going into the lobby of the Parks Department, is this something that I could ask them over the phone, or is this something that I could ask them through an email? So before you go into that facility. Our Clovis Aquatic Center and Potter Park will remain closed for the time being. We do have some practices that we're starting and guidelines we're starting to put together for if and when we can reopen the aquatic center. However, at this time, we have not received any verification that we are able to open that facility. So once again, the Clovis Aquatic Center and Potter Park will remain closed for the time being. The zoo also is something that we are trying to get clarification on as far as opening. We've been working with the Albuquerque Zoo to establish guidelines for trying to reopen that facility as well. We do believe, we think it's a facility that could get opened to our to our public, as well as give our citizens an outlet, someplace to go in order to have a fantastic quality of life. And we think we could do that by limiting the access into the park, but then also creating directional signage and basically having it a one-way route as you get to go see the animals through the various exhibits. But we don't have verification that we can open the zoo yet. However, we have put plans into place to where as soon as we receive that verification, we are going to be able to go about and open that zoo quickly. Roy Walker Gym, as the mayor mentioned, gyms are still closed. So Roy Walker will not be opened for physical activities. We have made some accommodations for AARP tax aid to come in and be able to perform services for the individuals that need that tax aid service. That is going to be by appointment only. And so what's going to occur there is that you will make the appointment, you will arrive at Roy Walker, you will remain in your vehicle. The folks with AARP tax aid will come out, they will receive your tax information, take it back in, complete your tax returns, bring them back out to you, get you to execute them, and then complete your returns for you. So while Roy Walker Gym remains closed to the public, we have made accommodations for AARP to be able to go in there and perform those tax services for the individuals that need that. Our police department, the lobby of that facility is going to remain open. And so it's definitely a secure area to where we feel that we can maintain and keep that facility clean. And so it is open to the public. But once again, we encourage you, if there's assistance that you need, if it can be done by a phone call, please pick up that phone first before coming down to Clovis PD to take care of whatever business you may need to. Our Public Works Department, once again, the lobby of it's going to open, and similar to the other departments, if it's something that can be handled over the phone, please pick up that phone and attempt to find your answers that way first before going out to the Public Works Department. Our Senior Services Department obviously will remain closed. That obviously serves one of those most vulnerable populations. However, that even though they're closed, they have still been trying to actively connect with our seniors. They've set up virtual interactive tours. We've gone out to the zoo and filmed the animals, so we'll have that available online. They've reached out and called every one of our seniors that we have contact information for. So we're looking at still trying to put programs together that we can reach out to our citizens and to our senior population to keep them interactive and keep them going and just stay in contact with them. I know that it can get lonely, especially with all the stay-at-home orders. And so our Senior Services Department is doing a fantastic job trying to reach out and connect with them. All of this information is going to be put out in an official press release tomorrow. And so please keep an eye out for that regarding any of these details that I've spoke out today. But in closing, once again, I would like to thank our City of Clovis employees for what they've done, for what they're doing, as well as thank our citizens for continuing to work with us and understand and what we're having to adapt to, as well as what our citizens are having to adapt to. So with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Howalt, and I too would like to thank all of the city employees for doing an exceptional job during this time. And Mr. Howalt, thank you for the job that you're doing. You have done an exceptional job of leading and managing the city through a difficult situation, and you're doing very, very well, and we appreciate your leadership there. Next, I would like to yield the floor to our Emergency Management Director, Mr. Dan Heerding.
Thank you, Mayor. Just some quick updates of what's going on around Curry County and the state. So the numbers just came out for today's cases. There are no new cases in Curry County, which is good news. Just some quick facts to kind of see where we're at. So as of today, we've done 1,626 tests within Curry County That's up from about 2 weeks ago where we had just a little over 600. So with that huge increase, it only stands to reason we discovered some new cases within the county. So we're going to hold steady at where we're at today, and we hope that we stay there for a while, that this little surge is slowing down. We've had some questions lately that come to us through Facebook about community spread, and are we able to see where it is and who is actually infected. We cannot see that information. We do not receive that information. The Department of Health is the safekeeper of all that information, and anything released would be a violation of the HIPAA rules and regulations. So they're holding it very tight and close to them. The only thing they will release is how many cases per zip code. And you can go to cv.nmhealth.org, and there's a page on there where you can see all sorts of statistics about what is going on in Curry County and everything. It gives you, by race, by gender, by age group. You can see the breakdown of all the testing and all the positive cases. One thing I do want to stress to everybody out there, and this was brought up today by our hospital director, if you are feeling sick, if you need to go to the hospital, please do not hesitate. Go to the hospital. Get what you need taken care of while it's a small issue and doesn't become a huge issue and potentially life-threatening for you. The hospital is probably one of the better places to go, one of the cleanest places where you can go and don't really have to worry about being infected with the virus. On another note, as emergency managers in the state of New Mexico, we have all been tasked to be a liaison for all agencies and all healthcare providers, that includes dentists, to get PPE, masks, face shields, gowns, gloves, if they cannot order them through their normal channels. So if you're one of those providers and you're not able to get anything and you're open up for business and you're getting low, please reach out to me. You can call me at 763-9485, or you can email me at oem@cityofclovis.org. And we'll have a discussion, and we'll do the best we can to order things through the state, through the Strategic National Stockpile. And we will try to get you what you want or what you need to operate. Keeping in mind, we're not going to get a whole bunch. The way it was explained to me is we all want that full tank of gas, but we're only going to get a couple gallons here and there. So it's a continuous process, and it's working right now. We've been doing it for about 2 months with the other facilities. So keep that up. I have nothing else, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Heerding. Mr. Heerding, your line of work is interesting in that you do a lot of preparing for such a time, and you've just done an excellent job, and I'm not sure that you've had a day off or the proper amount of rest, and we thank you for what you're doing and appreciate you very much. Thank you for that update.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Next, let's hear from Fire Chief Mike Nolan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to inform you, the public, that we're in regular contact with CDC, Health and Human Services, International Fire Chiefs Association, and State Fire Chiefs in regard to information, testing, and best practices. Now, a few points of clarification, and I would like to follow up on Dan's comments. Do not delay in getting emergency care because of COVID-19. In case of emergency, call 911 or go to the emergency department. Out at the hospital, they have infection prevention plans in place that protect you from getting COVID-19 throughout the hospital. The ambulances have continuous air sanitation, and contact disinfection is performed prior to each use. Each patient that we take in, we care. We want to make sure that you're safe. Because of the danger of suffocation, do not put cloth face coverings on babies or children under 2 years of age. That comes from CDC. I wanted to get that out there. So, this may be long and a little long and lengthy here. Those individuals with high risk for severe illness from COVID-19 include people 65 and older, people living in nursing homes and long-term care facilities, people of all ages with underlying medical conditions, and we've all been hearing that, but we'll talk on that. Those individuals with the underlying medical conditions, particularly if not well controlled. And these include people with chronic lung disease or moderate to severe asthma, people who have serious heart conditions, not necessarily previous heart attack, but serious heart conditions at this time. People who are immunocompromised. This condition, such as cancer treatments, smoking, bone marrow or organ transplantation, immune deficiencies, HIV or AIDS, and prolonged use of corticosteroids and other immune-weakening medications. People with severe obesity, people with diabetes, people with chronic kidney disease undergoing dialysis. So not just necessarily chronic kidney disease, but those undergoing dialysis. And people with liver disease. As symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure to the virus, cloth face masks are not intended to keep you from getting the virus, but rather to keep you from spreading it if you have it and you don't know it. Now, follow up on the city manager's comments there. Stay healthy. As is proven, the better condition you keep your body, less chance you have developing the severe symptoms. Go for walks, watch your diet, visit with people at a safe distance or via the phone to reduce stresses. Stresses compromise the immune system. And now I'd like to thank the many hometown businesses and private citizens here for your support during this crisis. We appreciate the meals, bottled water, hand sanitizer, homemade masks, and the many kind words. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate your expertise and your fine leadership of the Clovis Fire Department and EMS. We appreciate you very much, sir. Next, we'll go to our police chief, Mr. Doug Ford. Before we do, or as I hand it off to him, I did want to make sure that perhaps at the end of this presentation, we get the last slide that we had prepared up that actually talks about the enforcement of the health orders. And I know that I don't want to steal Chief Ford's talking points, but I did want to stress that the New Mexico State Police and the state of New Mexico are the enforcement arm for the health orders. And the city of Clovis is not responsible for enforcement. However, we would like to be proactive in educating and helping make sure that the entire community is following the health orders, and in particular that businesses are following COVID-safe practices and the like. These things are all important for us to continue moving forward in the phased plan. And with that, Chief Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your time. I want to thank all of our citizens again for working with everybody, working with all of us in doing our best in this crisis and taking care of each other and taking care of us. For everyone to understand with these new orders, you will be, when you have contact with police officers, they will be wearing some kind of a face shield or a face mask, which would be very normal for what they're used to. Again, this is to protect them, to protect you, to keep everybody healthy and safe. I am going to ask that they pan down a little bit to the fire chief. He actually brought his, I forgot mine. He has one of the N95 masks. If he would hold that up for me, I'd appreciate it. Both fire and police, if we are called to a call for service and there may be a situation where somebody might be infected, you will see all of us wearing something to that effect. So it'll be a little bit different, but it is the respirator that is designed to help keep us safe and also keep you safe. So again, if we do have those calls, we'll look a little bit different and we'll have those on. If we do deal with somebody that feels like they may have it or are concerned, we do have surgical masks we will give to them to put on for themselves and for us. We're just asking that you put that on for everybody's protection and to keep everybody safe. So we will have, my officers do have those available and it will be offered to them if they're wanted. Reports, as everybody knows, some people have had calls from officers instead of having the officers respond. Again, this is for the safety of them and the officers, so some of the reports that can be taken by the phone, please continue to call in, and we will continue to have officers contact you and get all the information for the reports that can be called into the police department. Fingerprinting will remain suspended at this time, and it's due to the function of this operation and the safety of our personnel and everybody involved. I want to thank all my CPD personnel and all the public safety throughout our area and our state for everything they've been doing and the great job they've been doing in caring for our citizens. Continue to take the calls for service and continue to be there and take care of everybody involved. One of the questions I did have is reference to the mask. Also, the officers will still be in either, most of them will be in this uniform that I'm wearing today whenever they're responding. The only difference is they'll have their face covered for their protection and for yours, but they will still be in their normal appearance, just with their face covered. For the mayor was talking about on the health orders, if you have any questions, please call us and we will address them to you. Also, I know there's been quite a bit of concerns on different businesses, so we have no problem talking with you about them. Again, I believe they're posted on the website, as I recall, and so you can let them come up there and they can give you the information you need. Again, we're all in this together. We need to do our best to protect ourselves, fellow citizens, family, and friends, to keep everybody from being infected. Let's work together to slow the spread and allow us to move forward to the next phase of getting our communities opened and getting us back to more normal functions. Again, any questions with police department issues or concerns, please contact Clovis PD and we will get them addressed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chief Ford, and we appreciate your professionalism and your leadership of the Clovis Police Department. Thank you for everything that you're doing. I wanted to reiterate what's already been said, and that is that all of this information, the references to COVID safe practices and the various phases and all of that is available at the city's website, cityofclovis.org. It's also available, as well as this presentation, this press conference is available on our city's Facebook page. And we are here to aid in you understanding the COVID safe practices, understanding how the phases affect you and your particular situation. And we want to help with that, and we want to make sure that we're all being good citizens and moving forward, and that we will be ready to move into the next phase without any setbacks. And we appreciate the opportunity to share this update with you today. I'm very proud of each of these individuals up here and the leadership of their various departments and parts of the city. And I appreciate each of you. Thank you very much for what you do. Do we know if we have questions from the public?
No, we don't.
We do not have questions from the public. We can, let me give you that number once again. If there are questions, please call them in. We can linger for a few minutes and see if you would like to get those in. It's 575-763-9200. Our hope was that this presentation would answer a lot of questions, and perhaps it has, but again, if there are questions, we can stand for those questions.
Mayor Morrison, once again, I'd like to echo what you just said regarding the enforcement of the COVID-safe practices and the reopening restrictions. The city of Clovis will not be enforcing those, the numbers and information provided. We will simply be here to try and educate and assist those businesses in making sure that they're in compliance with the ordinance itself. But from an enforcement standpoint, I wanted to echo that we will not be the enforcement arm of these actions and these orders. Simply education.
Thank you, Mr. Howalt. Appreciate that. Have we received any questions? We have not. Well, since we have not received questions, we'll go ahead and conclude this press conference, but we are going to have the number on the last slide that you can call and the email address that you can email if you do have questions related to the phase that we're moving to on Saturday, or related to COVID safe practices for employers or retailers. Please contact us. We want to help, and we appreciate the time. Do we have a question now? We do have a question. We've lingered long enough that we'll get the chance to take a question. While we wait for that question, I just in the same spirit of telling you that we're here to help, but there is information available to you. You can call, anyone can call the New Mexico Department of Health hotline, coronavirus hotline, and that number is 855-600-3453. And that is the health hotline. So if you're experiencing symptoms and you want to call, you can do that. They also have, and I don't think I have that number in front of me, but there is a non-health hotline at the Department of Health, and they can answer questions that you may have about the category of business you have or the like. So please be aware of that as well.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may add something real quick.
Yes, Mr. Heerding.
So just to let everyone know that the state of New Mexico is doing COVID-19 testing for all citizens in the state. And if you would like to get one of those tests done, you can call the Public Health Office. They're at 1216 Cameo, just right next door to the Freshman Academy. And their phone number is 763-5583. You give them a call, they will set up a time or date for you to come in and get tested. They're also making their way around the county and doing all sorts of other testing. Yesterday we were in Texaco at the Stripes doing testing for anybody wanting it, and they continue to do this as long as our test kits hold up. So just thought I'd get that out there real quick.
Appreciate that additional information, Mr. Heerding. The question from a caller is, what are we going to do next year when this comes back? And perhaps, Mr. Heerding, you would like to think about an answer to that question. What I would say is, as we've moved through this over the last 8 or so weeks, on my mind is the same thing. What are we going to do next time there is a perceived threat or a literal threat, such as the COVID-19 virus? You know, how would we respond to that? And my hope is that as a state, certainly as a country, but as the state of New Mexico, and then as the municipalities in Clovis, certainly, that we're all learning from this, and that we could have a better plan in place next time. My hope is that we can work with our legislators and perhaps look for improvements upon how we would respond to something like this in the future, and that's something that I hope to see as we move out of this and get back to normal. Let's not forget how painful this has been, and let's address how we would handle a shutdown of our community and our economy in the future, and in taking the lessons from this time around, how can we do it better next time? And that's my hope. I hope that the state will do that, and that our country will do that, and obviously any adjustments that are within our power to make here at the city, we want to make. Mr. Heerding, would you, not to put you on the spot, would you have anything to add to that question? What are we going to do when it comes back next year?
I think, Mayor, you hit it right on the spot. We're going to take what we've learned from this pandemic. We're going to sit there and get our groups together, and we're going to sit there and figure out the good and the bad and how we can improve those processes. This was kind of a whole new event for everyone. We did have a plan in place for an influenza pandemic. However, this went way beyond the scope of what we were actually planned, so it's a lot of uncharted territory. So we are going to, actually we should already be doing it, and I think we already are. A lot of our agencies is going through and seeing how we can improve this after this is all said and done. And we're going to have to rewrite our plan and make sure we're taking all this information that we're learning from this event and for the next event. So that is definitely in the works.
Thank you, Mr. Heerding. Appreciate you adding that. And Chief Nolan, do you have something to add to that?
So just briefly adding to what Dan mentioned there, and like I said, Dan is tied into as many organization briefings as we are each day in dealing with the CDC and national level Department of Human Health and Services. So we're still getting through this. Naturally, we are still learning many, many things, but some of those things that are being learned is what medications are usable at this time. All of the pharmaceutical companies are working on this, so hopefully we have some of those medications that deal with this rapidly. Also going into this, we were dealing with the unknown, and now there are some knowns. It's known to be transmittable to animals. We know that. We know some of the effects there to watch out for some of the population groups, and now some of the signs and symptoms. Do I believe it will be as much of a shutdown in the future? I believe that we will find all of these unique ways to handle these things on the next round so that we're not having to kill our businesses and still keep safe distancing. But like I said, there's much being determined day in and day out that I think in a very short time, and this has only been a few months now, but in a few months already there's been some determinations made on this and given us some proper guidance. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chief. Appreciate that very much. And I would like to make the viewing audience aware that we are going through the comments on Facebook and pulling your questions, and we're going to address each one of them. And I do have a few questions in front of me that, as I glance at them, I'll do my best. How's that? Will the Department of Motor Vehicle open? It's not our department. It's my understanding that they have been open by appointment during this shutdown. So I would suggest, and forgive me for deflecting that, but that's not a city department. So I would suggest contacting the Motor Vehicle Department, and I think you'll find out that they're open by appointment. Another question that we have here is, what is the penalty if you don't wear a face mask? I'm not aware of a penalty. There is not a penalty. This is a request that's been made, and I'm not aware that there's a penalty. We have another question. Are the school playgrounds included in the park reopening? I think I know the answer to that, but Mr. Howalt?
Mr. Mayor, Obviously, that's something that's going to be controlled by the Clovis Municipal School District. It's not within our latitude to open those parks, so they would have to speak with the Clovis Municipal Schools regarding opening those facilities. And I don't think that they are planning to open them, but still, it'd be best asked to the school district.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Howell. Yeah, I posed that question to the school district. I do believe that that the guidance from the Department of Health right now is still to avoid playground equipment. And we have a lot of questions rolling in, so we'll take a look at all of these, and I may not be the best person for each of these. What do people do with underlying medical conditions if they cannot wear a mask? Do they need a doctor's note? No, I believe the CDC guidance is if you have some pre-existing condition or some reason why it is not safe for you to wear a mask, you don't have to. You don't have to. And again, as far as I know, there is no penalty for not wearing one. So certainly if you have a medical reason why you wouldn't, please do not. And I appreciated Chief Nolan bringing up earlier that you don't want to put cloth face coverings on children under the age of 2. Yeah, and use your judgment there, please. Here we go with some more questions. Do you have any information about events like Smoke on the Water, Dragon Main, and the Curry County Fair? I actually do not. Well, that's not true. I do. I have heard the announcement that Dragging Main, the music festival portion of Dragging Main has been canceled, or it won't be happening due to the limitations on gatherings. We're just not going to be able to have gatherings of any size for the foreseeable future. I think that and I would encourage you to check with the Chamber of Commerce on this, as it is their event, but I believe that there is still plans to do the cruising up and down Main Street part of that, if that can be done with people staying in their cars and not getting out and creating a gathering. Smoke on the Water, do we know, Mr. Howell?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The Dragon Main, I have been contacted by the committee that works on that event. We are currently looking at trying to come up with a plan that may allow that event to continue to move forward, as you mentioned, with individuals staying within their vehicles, no congregating on the sidewalks. But so we're still in the early process of trying to go forward with that event in which we could do that in a safe manner. The Curry County Fair, I do believe that they are definitely still planning to have the event in late August. I don't know the dates exactly, but I know that they are trying to plan and have that event. Of course, it's their 100-year anniversary of their fair, and so I think it's something that they definitely would like to see happen. That's a big step for them. That's a big anniversary date for them, so there's still time.
Thank you for that, Mr. Howell.
And Smoke on the Water,
Yeah.
we're not sure where we are with Smoke on the Water. I know that event is obviously something that we partner with Rooney and Moon on to have that event every year. But with the limited restrictions right now and the mass gathering rules, trying to make that work could be logistically very difficult. And so there is nothing set in stone right now at this particular time regarding Smoke on the Water.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. And if you think about the event that Smoke on the Water is in our community, as sad as it is to say this, when you look at the phased reopen plan and the fact that gatherings of 100 or more may not happen for the foreseeable future, I think it's possible that we could have the fireworks portion of it, but we wouldn't be able to have the gathering portion of it down at Green Acres. I wanted to make sure we're not missing anything here regarding testing. Are they doing the antibody tests? And if you're not having any symptoms, or if you think you already had COVID. So would anyone want to take a stab at antibody testing?
I'll defer to you, Chief. You have some insight on that.
So currently, I believe all of the physicians in town can request the antibody testing. I know that Quest is providing the antibody testing here in town, one of the diagnostic labs. So you would need to contact your insurance carrier to find out that portion that you may be liable for, and it may be covered under the CARES Act as far as your deductible or copay. Now, the antibody test itself, it could indicate that you have had COVID-19. At the same time, it's not known at this time as to whether having the antibodies would preclude you from getting the disease a second time around. So these are some of those things, as mentioned a while ago, that we will find out these informations on as this takes full circle and proceeds maybe into the future, how we may be able to handle this next time. But at this time, these things aren't known as to whether you're free and clear. You would, irregardless, even if maybe you did not contract it again, you could still carry the disease to somebody else.
Thank you for that insight, Chief Nolan. Appreciate that very much. And I think the antibody test is an interesting concept. I like that. I thought I would mention, it looks like we're running low, looking like we're working through the questions that have been sent in. If you're on Facebook and feel like we've missed your question, perhaps make sure you're at the City of Clovis Facebook page and in the comments under this live video. If you're looking at someone's share, we may or may not be seeing your question. So we will take a little bit of extra time and make sure that we see them all. But I think we're caught up at the moment.
And Mr. Mayor, I think there was one that was asking if people will get thrown out of places for not wearing masks into stores. And so I guess in response to that, that would be up to the individual stores, whether or not they want to require their patrons to wear those masks or not. Obviously, the mandate is in place by the governor's office underneath her orders. However, with the enforcement rules not necessarily being enforced strictly. However, if it is a private business and a private business does not want to allow a patron to come in because they're not wearing a mask, that is up to them, just as well as it's up to them to allow that patron to come in if they choose to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Mr. Howalt. Yeah, I think that I'm going to, as I said earlier, because I would do anything for you and I would do anything to get Clovis going again, I am going to, out of respect for those businesses, they've been required by the health order to have their employees all in masks, and they've been asked to provide masks and encourage masks in their stores, and simply out of respect for the order and also for those business owners that are doing everything they can to be open and keep us moving forward, I will be wearing a face covering when I go into a business. But to Mr. Howalt's point, it's going to be up to that business owner if they want to require you to wear a mask inside their business. Are there other questions?
Mr. Mayor, that is, as quickly as I'm sitting here scrolling through a feed I think we've addressed most of the questions.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. I wanted to just say once again that I'm going to continue advocating to get our city opened up safely. We are seeing that meaningful movement starting on Saturday. It doesn't feel like enough, and it doesn't feel like soon enough, and I am going to continue to take that message to the governor's office directly, and I will continue in the meetings with the mayor's council that I'm a part of. I will continue to advocate for safely reopening our city. I believe that every business is essential, and I believe that our citizens can be trusted to look out for one another by practicing COVID-safe practices, by practicing good hand hygiene, practicing strict distancing, and even using face coverings as another line of defense. Let's do all of those things. Let's keep our numbers so low that it doesn't make sense to keep us in this mode of being shut down. And we appreciate the opportunity to give this update today, and we thank you very, very much, and please be in touch if there is something that we can help with related to COVID-safe practices in businesses and or how they affect you. Thank you.